I kind of just took it from a little bit of both, right? Like, what did I learn and what can I implement? So for teams, I really like the Highsmith's decision spectrum and FISTA 5 versus the yes or no or thumbs up, thumbs down. I just think it probably gives you a little bit more fidelity and takes some of the peer pressure out of it. And then for specifically the work that we're doing, I think there is a need to think how we're prioritizing and sequencing the work so there's not a bottleneck when it hits a different division, right? So that gets to be when we think about agile, the whole enterprise is not agile where we are, but we can acknowledge that it's not agile and limit the bottlenecks through improving process flow. So I can't change the whole organization at once, but when we're working in a project that we know requires other divisions, we can start to bring them in and look at that process flow. For us, that specifically means it's a piece that's missing is ensuring the mission area teams are included from the beginning. That's a business division that has not been included and has created issues at the end, where maybe the development team wasn't aware that of some requirements or even that maybe something else was in development in a pipeline. So they did some work that probably never needed to be done to begin with. It's very painful. So it's breaking down those silos to make a better product at the end and to make the flow faster and we're not wasting time and resources. Then we talked about tactical scaling. So every project is a little bit different or every product is a little bit different. So we need to analyze using the context of that specific thing that we're working to. In this model, we use process goals to guide the tailoring activities, skill activities. Something that we're not consciously doing is selecting a life cycle. So first we would need to know if it's project-based or product-based. That should be an actual conversation that's being had versus, hey, this is what one person saying, hey, this is what we're going to do, and not really understanding the implications of each of the life cycles. Small batch is better, as is pulling versus pushing. I really like the spider diagram. I think it's a good visual to show the complexity that a team's working within. I liked using the Excel. I think that was like an easy go-to to identify the top decision points. You can use the goal diagrams to make decisions. There are no prescribed, you must do these steps in this order. These are within the decision matrix, right? There is some, this is the first thing you should think about, but again, it's tailorable based on the specific context of what you're working through. Important to note that you should try things that are not all going to work. Experimentation is okay. If it didn't work, go back and try the next thing. We went through the DA toolkit. I think the toolkit has a lot of information. It's flexible guidance meant to adapt and evolve as your practices based on context. You need to understand like how to move through it though and where to find things. I think I'm pretty comfortable with that. The DA browser provides more detailed information when you're actually working through the implementation of each of those things, and it has a lot of drill down capability, which I liked. So when we looked through the prove architecture early, it gives me thought process to what the supercoder program is doing. I don't know that they're doing this. I think they're waiting until pilot testing when it becomes very expensive to make changes to the product that we've spent months in development. So I think you could probably buy down some risk in the technical area and gain traction with sponsors if we spend more time in the beginning actually going, let's prove this architecture now, make sure we can do what we think we can do. Today we talked about discipline DevOps. So here we're going to apply system thinking to bring in BizOps and data ops specifically to us or my particular client. Security is a big concern. I think they need to do a better job bringing in the security side of IT in the beginning to really understand the scope of where these tools need to sit within the classification system, and just general security around what we're doing. And then secondary, I think they need to coordinate better with the business side so that we're improving our process flow. And then we talked about moving to test-driven requirements. So refactor code it until it can pass the test, where testing becomes the requirement because we're doing a lot of rework based on maybe requirements that aren't really well defined. I think moving to this test-driven requirement would probably be beneficial to cut down on some of the quality issues that we're having. If we look at the value stream, helpful to shift the conversation from cost to what is the value that we're providing. I don't know that we always have it really well defined what the value is. Um, and so that I think that's something we can help the organization shape in the beginning, governed by risk versus artifact. Um, there is a want and a desire to have a bazillion artifacts, so it's a mind shift change that just because we say we're agile, there's a little bit more to agile than just moving fast. Some of that is going, I'm not going to produce 57 artifacts. I'm going to produce the artifacts that make sense based on the risk of this project. Organize around the product, not the function. So again, we're talking about breaking through silos, and making sure our team of teams is including all of those different functions and that we've smoothed the flow through so that we're not waiting in a queue for another organization to do something because they didn't even know it was coming. And then make sure we're using planning based on the complexity of what we're actually trying to build or create. I really like the graphic, and I think it's important to be able to show that planning should be based on how complex the actual project or product is that the team's working on. And then we talked about metrics, so should be specific to the team and drive team behavior, not individual behavior, because we want the team to be successful in a high-performing team. Moving away from KPIs, I think that will involve some education on our end with the clients because I think they just relabeled their KPIs, OKRs. So if we use the very I will do blank as measured by blank, I think we can get there. Encourage automation when possible. Use quantitative goals versus qualitative. We should be reducing the reliance on status reports that are often kind of reactive because you're reporting on status that has happened in the past, may not actually be reflective of what's happening today, along with, I think they're easy to game. And then we want to focus on time to realize value versus worker productivity, because that relates again back to the value stream and how we're providing value and are we being effective in providing that value versus just a whole bunch of people doing a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't really matter. They just look really busy. And then I just made one for the videos too, when I was going through them yesterday, so that if I wanted to go back and watch them, I would know which one I wanted or if I wanted to use them. So these were my notes from Agile is Dead. I think I'm going to make a slide that says this: no rule is universal, all rules need context, because it's very true. And then the other videos we kind of talked through this morning.